All right. Hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Global Chambers League of Global Nonprofits. As usual, I'm very stoked to be here with all of you incredible change makers, especially as we celebrate, not to put an emphasis on this, my 1 year anniversary with the Global Chamber during the event that hooked me in the first place. The League of Global Nonprofits is one of my favorite events because it not only showcases the incredible work happening in the social impact sector, but also sparks the potential for collaboration and innovation. And together we can create a bigger impact and inspire positive change in the world. Before we dive in, I want to emphasize the crucial role each of you plays in the Global Chamber and provide a glimpse into the value of Global Chamber for any prospective members present. As a thriving community of CEOs, executives, and leaders in over 525 metropolitan areas worldwide, your work, collaboration, and commitment to Global Chamber's mission is truly what inspires us on a daily basis. We believe that when businesses succeed across borders, communities thrive, and it's your active participation that makes this belief a reality. Now, a bit about myself, and this will sort of tie into the intros of our presenters. But when I was a kid, I was fascinated with the weather. And I'd eagerly check the newspaper every morning, which I don't know if that happens these days for kids, but to see the temperatures across the globe, intrigued by patterns and the interconnectedness of it all. Every Monday, I would go up to my first grade teacher, Mrs. Nestor, and tell her the 7 day outlook. Little did I know that this early fascination with systems would shape my life's work. Today, as the founder and CEO of Climo Collective, I'm still driven by that same curiosity and passion for interconnectedness. But now I'm focused on building a global ecosystem that fosters sustainable development, education, technology, and social entrepreneurship. Our mission is to create a thriving network of empowered individuals and communities guided by principles of sustainability, collaboration, inclusivity, innovation, and imagination. Today, you'll hear from four incredible organizations doing just that, making a real difference in people's lives through innovative approaches and a deep commitment to social impact. So let's dive in and get inspired by these amazing change makers. I'll now invite each of our presenters to introduce themselves, their organization, and what they dreamed of being when they grew up. And to take it a step further, and yeah, you can think about this, but I'd love for each of you to share what you want to be when you grow up now. How has your vision evolved, and what impact do you hope to create in the world? And Jack, I want to start with you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Jacob. Long time as well. So good to hear from you again. What did I want to be when I grew up? I actually, I'm trying to think now. I'll answer that last. But my name is Jack Farron. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a UK tech non-profit called Rural Inclusion, and also the host of the Social Impact Journal podcast. And I think um, my my career journey is quite, it's not so traditional really. So I left school at 16, and I was working in the insurance sector, and I did some work in insurance in the UK, and then did some work on contracts in Mexico to Switzerland, and that's when I met my now co-founder Joseph, who was born in a village in Uganda to a community of smallholder farmers, and was lucky to get a scholarship to study in the capital in Kampala, and eventually became the private secretary for ICT and technology in the government of Uganda. And when we became friends, we were always looking at different ideas, but to combine my skills in the finance space, we actually went to his village in Uganda, and that was when we actually got locked down with COVID. But that was the start of what rural inclusion has become today. But I'll keep it just short there. I don't know. Do you want me to talk further now, or you'll bring me back in later?
We'll loop you back in, but no, I
Okay.
appreciate you, and that was great to hear a little bit more about your history. You started early. When I was 16, my first job was at the Fort Worth, Texas Museum of Science and History. All right, I'm going to throw it to Paula. Would you like to introduce yourself, your organization, and just maybe something about yourself, what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Sure, thank you, Jacob. Well, my name is Paola Calderon. I'm from when I was little, I always cared about the people, how they feel, how they were, how they show themselves to others. And well, I worked with my dad since I was 18. And he has a very interesting journey into financial sector from the perspective of technology. So during this 17 years actually that I've been working with him, we have discovered how to help the world with information technology and facilities that will make them feel better into their decisions. And also, financially speaking, we are working in models that will improve when they have a financial situation with an institution. So this is what I'm doing, a brief thing of all this journey. And as a business owner, I care for the people that is in my team. And as a human being in this world, I care for the people that suffers from migration. So this is what I'm going to speak about this later.
Beautiful. We need as many leaders like you as possible, Paola. I can see the light and genuine care for the world and communities. Awesome. Titileo, you go next, please.
Thank you. You're taking me back many decades, by the way. Yeah, so I started my career in the UK in manufacturing. I got bored. I then went into cybersecurity and then took my first trip to the US for 3 years. Thereafter, I returned back to the UK and went into the transportation industry, working for Aviv Europe. 3 years, again, TT got bored. Now, what was this thing about TT getting bored? I like to thrive in very dynamic environments, and the UK is a matured market, so I thought I need to look over the water. So around 2007, I think I got a job with Schlumberger, which is, as you know, an oil servicing company, and I was very, very unique because I was like the first woman who didn't have military background, but I became a security advisor. Again, I love Africa. I started moving around because even as a child, I wasn't really au fait with Africa, although my parents are from Nigeria. Then I started to work for several oil and gas servicing companies. And along my journey, I started seeing global companies wanting to come into Africa, and their journeys were not smooth. They didn't understand the cultural context, how to do business, and literally how to build resilience into local nationals. Thereafter, I've been moving around the world, particularly in Africa, just supporting companies. Up until 2 years ago, I decided I needed to be a consultant. So I set up my limited liability called PEX Intelligence. I work on what I call human experiences. What is the impact on humans, whether it's through the lens of HR, such as employee experience, whether it's through healthcare, what is the patient experience? So I kind of look at sustainability through that lens as well. What is the impact on human beings? So last 3 years, I started thinking about my background of predominantly 8 years, which was more about intelligence. So I've got that in strategic geopolitical intelligence background. And I thought, I love what the world is doing. But my thing is, why is it that whenever there's humanitarian crisis, everybody throws books at kids in camps? And for me, that was a problem. So that's how I then thought, what TTB Creative, how can we continue to educate children in internally displaced population camps in a fun way? So I had to negotiate with the Nigerian government. They gave me space in one of their camps in Calabar. I then built the first education games hub there, and it's all about fun, play, next, Lego, you name it. So that's really been driving me for the last year now, because that is a bubble in my life. I've seen great impact. I have a large number of children coming to the camp, and they're seeing things they've never seen before that we take for granted here all around the world, like drafts and Lego, like what's that kind of thing. I then became a bit more inclusive to address kids that have got different disabilities, such as neurodiversity. So I've got sensory toys, I've got Braille. So I've got that education games club going in the background. So that's me, Titi.
That's incredible. And as a former teacher, just I always will support those that work with the youth and also take a different approach. I think we need to have fun. We need to enjoy,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to learning. All right, Pamela, finish us off, and then we will circle back to our presentations.
So thank you. So I'm Pamela Ruiz, and when I was really little, I wanted to be a florist just because I liked flowers, and I always picked flowers. But I do think that that sort of appreciation of art and color, led me to the global work that I've been doing, because I did end up, studying art in college, and what that means throughout different cultures and regions and how we express ourselves. And so that has sort of led me to my global career. And right now, I'm with an organization, a nonprofit called Intellios, and I'm the Chief Business Development Officer there. We are a global certification organization focused largely on imaging modalities. If you are in the United States or Canada, if you or a loved one have ever had an ultrasound, the sonographer has been credentialed through us. So that's the best way to kind of relate to most folks, at least in North America. The work that I am doing now is focused in low middle income countries. We have started in East Africa specifically in working towards improving maternal health by decreasing maternal mortality. So I plan to sort of talk about certification as a standard, improving health systems, what that looks like in Kenya, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Very cool. And so thank you all for sharing those inspiring stories and aspirations, and a little bit more about your background and how some of those decisions early in life have blossomed into meaningful careers dedicated to making a difference. All right, now it's time to explore these organizations' incredible work in more detail. Each presenter will have around 10 minutes. That'll include presentation and some questions from y'all to share their unique approaches, successes, and vision for the future. This is your chance to learn, be inspired, and connect with causes that resonate with you. But here's where things get even more excited, and you know that I like to keep y'all on your toes. As you listen to these presentations, I encourage you to think about how you or your organization can support these change champions. Maybe you have a skill or expertise to share, a connection to make, or a passion that aligns with their mission. This is your chance to make a real difference through what I'm calling a virtual handshake agreement. A virtual handshake is a commitment to support one of these organizations in a way that's meaningful to you and aligned with your values. This support could involve volunteering your time, offering mentorship, sharing your network, or even exploring a partnership between your business and their organization. And remember, this isn't about obligation, it's about opportunity. It's about finding ways to collaborate and create shared values together. And I'm here to help facilitate those connections and support your efforts in any way I can. One exciting update for Global Chamber and a space to continue these conversations are the incoming Global Chamber WhatsApp communities. That includes a nonprofit room where you will have the opportunity for virtual handshakes, connecting, and creating impact. All right, so time to open your minds, open your hearts, and let's dive into the world of impact and innovation with our first presenter. As you mentioned, we know each other, and he's a buddy of mine who I met around this time last year, Jack Farron with Rural Inclusion. All right, the floor is yours, Jack.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks everyone, and great to hear the other presenters. Look forward to connecting with you offline as well. So yeah, I mean, it was 2021 when me and my now co-founder went to his village in Uganda, and we led a research project with 200 village saving groups. So there was around 8,000 farmers within these groups, and we were looking to understand how the group members were accessing information, technology, and financial services. And what we saw was that the current training that was being delivered on elements of financial literacy, digital skills, or elements of climate smart agriculture, were by local NGOs or agribusinesses, and they were often taking the form of someone has a workshop in the village with 50 people with a flip chart and a pen, very traditional workshop style trainings. And we saw that they just weren't very effective. So we had an experiment where we tried lots of different ways to deliver financial education to the groups. So we had a national radio show in Uganda. We developed some comic books. We we created videos where farmers were the actors in the videos. We created pre-recorded teacher videos and also animations. And we saw that the use of animation is a great tool because it has that element of edutainment, but for learning about something quite complex, but also it was very inclusive for a group that we were targeting that had very low literacy levels. So we decided to use an animation as a tool for delivering training to village groups. But the question was then, how do we disseminate those animations to groups that don't have access to a smartphone or a tablet or any kind of device that can consume video? So we looked at what the existing infrastructure were, and we saw that there was community-based organizations that are rooted in their communities, where their staff or their management, they're more likely to have a smartphone or a tablet within the community center. So we developed an offline-enabled mobile application to facilitate the delivery of these videos and also the data collection for evaluating the impacts. And that's how we started. That was our journey. So we, from there, developed a model where we worked with organizations who would pay us to develop this type of content, and then we can deliver that through these partnerships. So where we are today is that our app and our content creation is used by United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNDP, lots of international charities, banks, insurers, and agribusinesses at a cost. And then we have a network of grassroots organizations that access all of our services free of charge. And we're currently building an accelerator program for those grassroots organizations on areas of fundraising, on finance and governance and digital literacy, as we really have a mission to, in the international development sector, to bridge the gap between donor agencies' expectations and the current capacity of grassroots organizations in rural areas, to really increase the flow of resources, to get more money, more skills, and more resources, in the hands of community leaders, because we really have a belief that there is no one better that understands what is needed in a village than someone that is living there 7 days a week. And unfortunately, the way that the sector is designed right now is often those organizations struggle to get access to the resources. So we've had the opportunity to work on different digital training programs in 10 countries, from Fiji and Tonga to Ethiopia, Uganda, Malawi, Kenya, to Colombia and El Salvador, with a range of different partners. And we are actively building this network of grassroots organizations in 8 countries currently. So that's Malawi, Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Rwanda, Uganda, Colombia, and El Salvador. So that is us. We are a small core team with a large network of inclusion ambassadors. They are volunteers who are senior experts within charities, within the finance sector. They're journalists. We have bankers, we have lawyers, we have people in the UN that are really supporting our mission on whether that is market research, on finding local partners, or just advocating for our work. A few maybe projects to talk about in terms of the digital training. So we've worked on elements of coffee, pests and diseases. So working with a coffee company in Uganda to develop content on how farmers can spot different pests and diseases and what to do about that. We've worked on mobile money fraud, so digital fraud with telephone networks, and Caritas, which is the Catholic International Aid Agency, to then other types of work, including parametric insurance for fishers and farmers in Fiji with the United Nations. So educating on the benefits of insurance as a climate risk management tool. So we do a lot of work in different areas, but we're really focused now in our new strategy on accelerating grassroots organizations to increase the flow of resources to them. And that's what we really see as something that can advance the whole movement towards the SDGs. And localization is a topic that there's a lot of talk about, but there's very, very little action. So that is what we are pushing all of our time and resources into now, and that's the new strategy that we're rolling out across the next few years. So I'm based in the UK, but I will be based in Colombia until the end of the year. So do move around quite often. But if anyone is in Colombia or the US, I'll be regularly there for the second half of this year, or in the UK. I'm always sometimes at home.
Yeah, Thank you, Jack. No, it's great to hear those updates, and I just feel like it's just continuing to evolve with each month, and it's very exciting. And that, you know, local organizations struggling to have access to resources, that's ultimately what drove me to Global Chamber, and that's what drove me to the community where I met Jack, Grassroots Finance Action, just finding alternative approaches in different spaces to help support leaders that need it the most. All right, I want to open it up and to the audience for some questions. Anyone have any questions for Jack himself or about rural inclusion? Yeah, Paula?
Yeah, hi, Jack. I was wondering if you're going to Colombia because of your project purposes.
I'm going to Colombia for what? Sorry, my project.
Yeah, I mean for the nonprofit purposes, if you're doing something
Yes.
there.
Yeah, we're doing yeah, we have some projects that we're starting in Colombia, and also it's more of a strategic base for me as we're exploring different partnerships across Latin America and also in the US. There is COP16 on biodiversity in Cali that will be in October. So, you know, being around for those events also is quite critical for us. I need to improve my Spanish as well. So it's being there is you know, will hopefully give me a bit of motivation to keep learning.
Awesome. Awesome. I will connect later.
Yeah, where in Colombia are you going to be?
Starting Bogota is the plan, and then move to Cali, up to Cali in October. Down to Cali in October for COP.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure to connect you with our group in Colombia.
Do you have
Okay,
I have
fantastic.
a question, please?
Yeah,
Sorry,
Sophia.
Sophia?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi, Cesar. This question for Jack. My name is Sofia Lagidi. I am the president and the founder of Amerock Export, exporting heavy equipment to several countries around the world. Recently, well, that is something touched my heart in helping others. I was doing it my way, I mean, surprisingly, I was selected to be one of the, not one. There is one time for one person here in Chicago, the award of Athena Leadership Award, which is succeeding business, giving back to our community, which is really that is very close to my heart. But I was doing it very traditional way. I just whatever I can help. I was one of them. I'm originally from Morocco, and I know what that means, the lack of having a chance to have a life with dignity. That's what I was trying to do, but traditionally. Recently, Morocco get hit by earthquake, and I was whatever I can do to help. I was connected with several organizations which they trust that I can deliver. And I found myself really there when I get to network with those organizations. I'm really thrilled to be here in this event. My question to you, Jack, I know there are rural areas in Morocco. They have a lack of water. That's where my grandparents they were. And I see they're really struggling, even though get at the point now people they are immigrating to the cities and they are struggling to find even though work and losing their lands, losing their animals, they're losing everything in their villages. Is there something that you are doing for currently in the countries you are serving in Africa?
So I think in terms of for community-based organizations, we're working in East and Southern Africa, and those are the countries that we're building this network in. So essentially, how does that model work? So through our ambassadors, we identify early stage, small community-based organizations that are, you know, perhaps too small to be seen or funded. Maybe they don't have a website or social media, so it's very hard for them to attract attention. So through a 6-month accelerator program that will be delivered through our application, their team get access to content on things like programming, digital skills, digital storytelling, fundraising, finance and governance, and social entrepreneurship. And the goal with this program is that when they when they complete the program, they become an alumni of our network. And then we connect those community-based organizations to philanthropic foundations, other funders, partners that have technology solutions that can really support, or other maybe corporations that have volunteering programs. So we're playing that enabling role. First of all, identifying early stage organizations, supporting them with skills through the accelerator, and then connecting to other organizations. So I think, in response to your question, and thank you for all the great work you're doing. Specific interventions that might be focused on, let's say, water or sanitation. We're not developing specific interventions. That each community-based organization does different things in their community, the things that they feel are the most important. So we're playing a role of enabling those organizations to grow, rather than designing specific interventions that we implement.
That's awesome, Jack. And that bottom up process, that's a process that needs to be pushed out in all organizations, communities. The people that live in that community know what they need, and they have the skills to get it done. Yes, and I'd like to keep moving. So I'm gonna, in order that we introduced ourselves, I'm gonna toss it over to Paula to present her organization, Sophie Crowdfunding and Sivas.
Thank you, Jacob. And I'm gonna share a presentation, if you don't mind. And
Perfect.
okay, so I wanted to place my whole name because it's where all the ideas came from myself. So I am the founder of Supercool, Sivos, and Sophie. And I am happy to be here. Thank you, Global Chamber, for the time and the space to share my ideas. And I can share what Sophie, Supercool, and Sivos are doing for the world. But before, I would like to share that I have a dream. I have a dream. And here it is. That we take care of it's like blurred. If we take care of the environment, ourselves, and the planet we live in, and everything that lives here. This dream is what has moved me to make what we are just creating. We haven't accomplished yet, but we are moving forward, so we support the world. It was very natural that when you have an idea, you build a startup and you created a company. But companies hire people that the individuals that come from families. And nowadays, there's a lack of trust, but trust was learned when somebody cared from us. And care was learned at first in family. So I believe in society. I believe in that families and individuals create the society, but we need to redefine trust and make it a strength. So that's how we're going to motivate to really make a change. But if companies only focused on work and they don't focus on the people, we're not going to complete this cycle of trust. The change is not going to be really a big impact in the world. If we as members of a company, we place all our talents to make a company brighter, to make a company really sell what they're doing, then companies really need to take care of the individuals. How? Like in their mental health, in their financial health, their physical health, they care for loved ones. So companies also need to care for their loved ones, their pets, their sons, their parents, their immediate environment. That's how a person will be really committed for the company and for the change. And this is what will improve a company to give an added value to the society, to the customers. Customers will really find a company that matches philosophy with them. And that's how we are going to serve their customers. And this is how we're going to complete the cycle to help environment and society. This is really needed to come from the heart, because if not, it's not going to be really impactful, and it will not create the change that we really need. I mean, climate change is really making us see that we really need big impacts. So companies are a very key piece of this cycle. We as companies need to care for individuals and their immediate environment. So I would like to share, before I place this video, that we, in 17 years of journey when being companies, we really have come into a very committed idea that we need to become a social enterprise in order to help the world, help the people, help the society. And we're going to do this from our knowledge. Our knowledge comes from being providers of financial institutions in Mexico. We see how remittances are big in Mexico. We are based on the third state with more migration in Mexico. We have in 30 minutes, we can be in a small community that has a lot of needs. And I will present this video so you can see what Sophie, that is a project that we are creating, will do for society and the environment.
Have you ever wondered about the struggles of migrant families? The nights spent worrying, the days filled with uncertainty. In 2022, a beacon of hope was born, Sophie, a movement to support families left behind by migration. Sophie offers financial support for projects that improve opportunities in migrant communities. Sophie helps for key groups, children and teens with major illnesses or disabilities, children and teens at risk of addiction, homelessness, or abandonment, single mothers or pregnant women facing economic hardship, elderly men and women needing support to live. By supporting one family, Sophie impacts many. It's a ripple effect of positive change, empowering families to build a better future. Join the movement and be part of the change. Your support can change lives. Together, we can create a brighter future for migrant families. Let Sophie inspire you.
So this is Sophie, and I'm happy that we are putting our talents, work, and knowledge for the service of migrant communities. Migrant communities are not only here in Mexico, are also in the US, and migrations is a natural effect that we're sure it's very hard to stop. But the struggles from migration are very hard, and they ripple people emotionally. They make children follow their parents to find the American dream, and in the journey they drop off school. They may be lost, insecure, go into addictions, and suffer a lot of things that it's like a long list to mention, but we want to prevent that by creating a platform where they can subscribe projects. And these projects will be promoted to collect donations in a physical way and also in a virtual way. And we will provide information and community support, also people support, to prevent them to struggle more than necessary from migration. So this is a project that we are creating. We haven't launched. We haven't launched because we had financial regulations that we need to accomplish before starting to collect donations, but we are arranging that to launch very, very soon. And our big supporter is Cibos and Supercool. And these two companies that we founded, they care for the people, they care for the customers and for the clients of our customers as creating models. We also share knowledge. We also take care of the environments, make alliances for our co-workers and their families. So we have a wide understanding on the help that we need to do. It's from inside out. So also, we have 4 categories in which we're going to support projects at first. First, basic needs, that is health and food. Then prevent school drop-off, addictions, or receive any kind of projects like sports project, schools, anything that could help children and adolescents go into like bad paths. Women that need economical support or emotional support and that are pregnant, and also elderly people that need support in projects that will improve the community. I would like to finish up my presentation saying that there is an African proverb that makes me move, that says, a child who is not embraced by their tribe will, as an adult, burn the village down to feel its warmth. And this is what really moves me forward to making a change.
That's a powerful way to close. I mean, that's having support, love, care from a community is everything, especially when it comes to development. And I think people are beginning to really open their eyes, and we're moving away from that siloed mentality. Thank you so much, Paula. We have I want to be sure that in terms of time, I want to sort of move forward with the presentation so everyone has plenty of time to share their stories. And so we'll have some time at the end for some last questions. And so I want to keep moving forward. And so Titi, will you slide in and start your presentation?
Thank you, Jacob. So I'll just talk from my notes to keep things quite short and simple. But thank you all for being on the call. So let me take a step back. Why did I start the EHA movement? My daughter was in private school. I had financial difficulties and I had to keep her education going for 3 months. And I incorporated puzzles and digital puzzles and everything games-based I could do. And she came out with about 4 A stars. And that's what you get from play. So that was me thinking, look, you actually don't need money. You can actually be creative with what you have in the house, within your surroundings to develop. So that's how the EHA nonprofit was born. I focus on Africa because I've worked there, for the better part of my professional career life. So I was quite familiar with the environment. I chose Nigeria, 1 for heritage, but 2 because I was able to get professional education from a renowned university to lead my programs. So it kind of all fell into place. So, within the context of all the games that we actually deliver with the kids, you'd be amazed how a lot of kids who don't know what a game is, don't know the simple things such as how to play together, how to connect, how to evolve, how to learn. And that was all part of the program, not just the game, but moral etiquette and soft skills and just seeing things I'd never seen before. We even go as far as training on climate change. I'm a sustainability maturity index practitioner. So I thought, well, how am I going to train children to learn climate change? I'm not bringing out the book, and I did it through art. That's it. So that's me being very innovative on a daily basis to keep the smiles coming and to bring a different flavor into the environment. One of our projects for Q3 2024, which is obviously September of this year, is to incorporate STEM through sports as a new project with an American company. Now, I think it's through you, Jacob and Caesar, it was like the connection, and I couldn't believe it. I never knew you could actually teach STEM through sports. Never learned it in the UK. So that's what we're going to be taking into, that's the plan, to take it into the camp in September. Why am I in an environment such as an settlement camp? Because there are a lot of displaced children. It's a controlled environment, but again, it's what we take for granted. It's almost like training and teaching in a different world. They've had all the great things they had in their home countries removed in a split of a second, coming into a very regimented environment and told, here's the book, keep learning. And that's when I thought it can't work. That's not how to train kids. In my settlement camp club, I have children that are not going to school. Their school fees are paid by World Bank and UN. They're coming to me. And that taught me a lot. So I thought, let me keep going. Let me have this as an after school club, as a weekend club when we can, and surely as a summer club. And, you know, although we've got a very small room, we've got attendances of about 40 kids per day over a span of about 4 hours, because they normally come after school. They're very eager to have more, but we have to work within the constraints of the environment. We've also been allocated land to build, and we're going to build, a small building in the same way other charities do. It's not a duplex, it's not a mansion. You know what I mean? It's 4x4, congregated ceiling, and that's really it. So that's my next phase again for September, to create a facility where they can actually do the STEM through sports in there. So that's quite nice, and that's been offered to us again by the government, which is a very nice offering, which I have gladly embraced and accepted. Again, how do I deliver these programs, and how have I monetized it? Well, I haven't yet, to be honest. I had to do a pilot for 9 months, and that was a requirement, which I've obviously passed now, which is great. So what I plan to do is to use my strategic intelligence consulting firm to be the delivery partner. Over like 20 years, I've always had companies saying to me, I want to do something in Africa. I don't know where to start. So my model is to create a subscription program with different programs focused on girl empowerment, focused on learning through play in some form, and creating a subscription model where companies can subscribe to maybe 3 months, which will equate to a particular program. And that way I can now help companies focus on the S in the ESG, and I can give them that I want to do something in Africa. It's their brand, it's their name. They pay us to deliver it for them, and we get paid at the end of it. But the point is predominantly that will be a service fee. So I've tried to be creative where we can work with the companies now and say, well, we can actually help you. We can support what you're looking to do, and we can certainly deliver because we've got the infrastructure and the connections in Africa, not just Nigeria. And what else can I talk about today? What are we looking for? More connections, more partners locally. For example, STEM through sports was an amazing concept. I would never have thought of taking that into Africa. And I know it's not been taught in that way in Africa. So that's a no-brainer. And different innovations, it doesn't have to be big. I've also got Lindsay Boyce, who we will be showcasing her products as well. She's a wonderful and well-to-do, well-established sustainability expert in the industry. And she's already offered to host games on Zoom. So we'd like to have different faces, different profiles. Would you like to spend half an hour reading a book to children that may have never had access to these wonderful books? Or would you like to have a mentorship? Because although we cover 6 to 18, we split into 2 groups. It's 6 years to 15 years. Then we've got a secondary group, 15 years to 18. And that group is a group that I have to really take a grip with, because they're dealing with a lot in life. They don't know as much as our kids know, being in the more mature market, and they want to learn more and they want to connect. They've never seen certain cultures before, and it will be a great privilege for them to talk and hear and communicate with well-established individuals. What else can I add? Yeah, my consulting arm, PEX Intelligence, will have the subscription page up in the next day or so. And yeah, we'll just keep moving forward. But again, it's just small. I always want to be in internally displaced population camps. That's my background. Although I always covered geopolitical intelligence, it's an environment that I understand, and we'll continue being there as we grow. So that's it from me.
That's incredible. Thank you, Titi. And I think you and Jack would probably have some great conversations with the amount of work that he's done across the continent. And
amazing.
I think that would be a great connection. So let's keep rolling so we can have some time at the end for some final questions. And so Pamela, let's throw it over to you to finish us off with the presentations.
Thank you. And I do have a deck that I will quickly go through because I don't want to worry you to death with PowerPoint, but it is, I do promise it's good information, hopefully. So a little bit about, this is a shortened presentation that I just gave as a side event at the World Health Assembly in Geneva just a week or two ago. And that's about setting a standard. So certification as the interoperable language for quality healthcare. So a little bit about Intellios. Our mission statement, you can see there that we fuel the global health community to ensure equitable access to quality care. We've been around for nearly 50 years. We're all over the world, and we have over 140,000 folks who are currently certified through our organization. We are also accredited by the International Standards Organization in order to provide personnel certification. So just to lay a groundwork here, in January, the European Council passed a policy to strengthen health systems throughout the world, recognizing that we are all interconnected. And so in order to elevate health systems within Europe, it's very important to elevate health systems everywhere because of that connectivity. So I wanted to lay the groundwork there because they really pulled out some key things in terms of equitable access to quality, focusing on primary healthcare, as well as having a skilled workforce. The World Bank Group also just in April promised to expand health services to 1.5 billion people, which is a big deal, that they're really looking to ensure that everyone has access to healthcare. So I'm so pleased that the UN Sustainable Development Goals have already been mentioned on this call. That's something that we are really working very closely in alignment with, particularly the number 3, good health and well-being. But even more specifically, where we're starting is in maternal mortality and ensuring that all women have equitable access to care. So where we focus specifically for this work is ultrasound and point of care ultrasound, which means that ultrasound is a device that is about this size. You can read images on your phone through a probe. So it's very bedside, very cost effective, available, and can be in lots of different places as opposed to a cart-based ultrasound system that some of us have seen in hospitals. So here, point of care ultrasound, which is what it's called, POCUS, has been used in Sub-Sahara for couple of decades now, but not uniformly. There's been a lot of studies, there's been some trainings. And so making the case here that there's an opportunity to make this a cohesive effort because there's been so much research that has shown that when women get care where they receive care, i.e. their primary maternal clinician, i.e. a midwife or a nurse or a clinical officer, their outcomes improve. And so really having ultrasound and folks who know how to use it be standardized throughout is something that we're trying to work towards in order to elevate and improve health systems. So wherever midwives and nurses and clinical officers and others may receive their training or have had training, whether it's through university curriculum, on the job, different research studies, which has been the prominent throughout Sub-Sahara, certification brings that all together. So you've been trained over here. You can say, I have this certification. Everyone knows what that means. There's a common language there saying, oh, okay. So you know how to do these 5 things. You know how to look for how many babies are in there. You know how to see if there's a heart rate, where the placenta is, and how and fetal lie, how the baby is positioned. Those are through research, are the main things that basic point of care ultrasound at the point of care can be determined. So as I mentioned, much of our work thus far has been in Kenya. So we as Intellios have worked really hard to work in concert with local stakeholders and having them lead and ensure that this is what is wanted, is needed, is developed and put in place that makes sense locally for what they're seeking in terms of universal health coverage. And so 2 years ago, we brought together all of the stakeholders, professional associations, clinicians, Ministry of Health, Parliament, radiologists, which are really important in this conversation, all these device manufacturers, banks, brought them all together and had a conversation and said, look, we want to help improve maternal mortality. We recognize that our expertise isn't certification, not the whole shebang, but we're here to say this is what we know. How can we work together to potentially elevate health systems in this way? And so we've done a baseline Canvas survey with the Ministry of Health. We've worked very closely with the Ministry of Health. At the end of this month, we will have a finalized policy rolling out the scope of practice for midwives, primary nurses, and clinical officers in how to use basic point of care ultrasound. This is a big deal and it's very exciting. So this is exactly where we are right now. And then now we're figuring out, okay, now how do we implement the training? How do we ensure that those that are teaching it at the university level know how to teach it, are proficient themselves to be able to teach it, to then train and teach the next generation of healthcare workers. In concert, we're also ensuring that those who are already in service and working begin to train them and get them up and going in a train the trainer model. And so that's what we're really looking to do, is to shift the entire healthcare infrastructure for task expansion to enable more women to have this type of care. There was a slide in here that I took out for brevity that basically said, that did say, all women everywhere around the world should, including the United States, should have access to full and proficient healthcare, period. It's an evergreen statement. And so this is some of the work that we're starting to do. So in time, this is something that will be throughout the different university curriculum, and that every health system and at every level, 2 through 6, there's 6 levels of healthcare in Kenya, will have this ability for women to be scanned. And then looking at the business model here in terms of sustainability, why we went to the World Health Assembly, why we're talking to the UN is to, and why we're talking to the European Council and other wealthier nations, that if you really want to strengthen health systems around the world, this is a way to do it. So let's ensure this is part of the universal health coverage within different countries. So this speaks again to certification as that interoperable language. And so this is somebody that works with the International Standards Organization. I took it right out of his research because he said it better than I could. And then finally, just a couple of final points here. This is an opportunity to be able to provide women at the point of care, but it does need global support, period. And global health subsidies to be able to do that. But then because of that interconnectivity, it rises healthcare for all of us around the world. And I do have some other slides and references, but for our purposes, I'll stop there.
Thank you, and congratulations on that. Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge advancement in Kenya. And so I'm excited to learn more about that and see how I can help by weaving in my network in terms of probably more on the train the trainer side. I'll stop talking and we'll, for these last few minutes, let's see if we can get some questions. Are there any questions for our guests, Paula, Pamela, Titi, or Jack?
Hi, Courtney
Yeah,
here.
Courtney.
Jump in. I have 2 questions. I had one for Paula. I was interested, I didn't quite understand. You have the 2 companies that are involved, but you started with the story around how companies and taking care of their own and that holistic circle. And then I just wanted to see how your relationship with the companies fits with Sophie as a sort of program model. And that's one question. And my second one is to Pam, which I am so excited to see all the progress that you all have made on this. I'm just so curious, as a company, as an organization, what's in it for Intellios? Like, how did, because this is a big effort and somewhat outside the general business scope of the organization. So those are my 2 questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Courtney. All right, Paula, do you want to answer first?
Yes. Hi, Courtney. Thank you for your question. So I am the founder and CEO of Civos, super cool. And also I created Sophie as our, let's say, social responsibility project, but now we see it bigger and wider, and it's gonna transform us. as regular companies to have a social enterprise with a very committed support to community and society.
Oh, okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So very good to see you, Courtney. Courtney and I know each other. So for Intellios, we are a mission-based organization. And so ideally, we want to ensure that everyone around the world has access to proficient clinicians. We want to that end, working with Kenya and also working with other low and middle income countries in ensuring that all clinicians have access to training and certification in this really important diagnostic tool fits right into our mission. So what's in it for us is that is being able to sustain that mission that we seek to ensure that no matter where you are in the world, you have access to this type of care and you have access to this type of proficient clinician that knows what they're doing, even if they've got access to something that is, I'm holding a pen, pretend it's an ultrasound probe, that is cheap and being sold to them. It can also be a dangerous tool if you're not, if you don't know what you're doing. So we want to ensure that you know what you're doing. And so it really is very well aligned with our mission.
That was a great question, Courtney. I'm gonna remember that, keep that in my question bank. Like that. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right. If not, we can close up. And so to our presenters, thank you for sharing your passion, your wisdom, and your unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. Your work is genuinely, truly inspiring. To our audience, thank you for joining us and for your willingness to engage, learn, and explore ways to make a difference. Remember, even the smallest actions can have a ripple effect of positive change. Every virtual handshake, every connection, every act of support, no matter how small, can contribute to a brighter future for all. I encourage you to reach out to our presenters on LinkedIn and the Global Chamber nonprofit WhatsApp community, learn more about the organizations and explore how you can get involved. And if you're interested in learning more about how Global Chamber can help you make a difference in the world or your business, please don't hesitate to connect with the organization. This is just the beginning of a powerful conversation about how we can leverage our collective strengths to create a more equitable, sustainable, and thriving world. I want to thank you again all for being part of this incredible event. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Take care, you all. Good weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Jacob.
Thank you, everyone.